7 p.m. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's great weather today, and enjoy it because I understand it's not going to last long. It's going down to 1 or 2 degrees midweek. Anyway, Mike Scholdice is absent with regret. He had some emergency work that he had to do in his vocation, delivering blood. And speak of the devil, and he appears right now. So there he is. Mike, I was just giving you're absent with regret, so your timing is good. And Alan Bushel, I think, will be with us remotely, possibly. And are we being streamed live, Mike? Can you tell if we are?
Yes, you are. We are live.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. Before we begin this gathering, we will acknowledge that the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and regions of Southwest Middlesex. The nations along the banks of the Thames River include the Chippewa of the Thames, Oneida Nations of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moraviantown. We convey our respect to our Indigenous neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, community, our past, and partnerships in the future. The chair will call for disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there any member of council declaring a pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we will move on to the agenda contents. The agenda has been circulated before you, dated April 12th. Are there any errors or additions?
There are no errors, Your Worship, and no additions, but there are a couple subtractions.
Okay.
Aqua's presentation will not be occurring under delegations and presentations, and it appears that the drainage for report for the Butler drain was inadvertently put on this agenda that's coming on the second meeting of the month.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike Henry, and we will note that and few items deleted from the agenda. May I have a motion to accept the agenda dated April 12th with the exclusion of the Aqua delegation report and the Section 78 drain? A mover for that, please. Thank you. Councillor Vink. Seconder, Councillor Choi. Discussion? Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm just wondering, was Aqua going to reschedule?
They conveyed their situation through the clerk, so I'll see if he's able to talk about it. Alan is not overly well this evening, so please forgive his voice. 1 second.
Yes, if I may speak, Your Worship. Aqua is going to come back next year. They felt that we covered our reporting requirements already in our last meeting.
Okay, before we get into further discussion with that, I think I'm going to ask them to come back at an earlier date than that. So I do have a discussion with them later this week that I'll make that request so they come sooner.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I think that'd be a good idea. And the chair condones that as well. Okay. No, it's a significant expense we have, and they provide a significant service. So I think it'd be good that communication relationship to have some dialogue. The agenda has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion's carried. And we will skip number 4. Council will deal with the consent agenda. I'll read these from 5A through to 5I. If there's any subject matter that any councillor wishes to pull out to discuss, if it's a modest amendment or action, we can deal with it immediately. If it is one that is more complex and entails debate, we'll move it to new business. 5A, minutes of the regular meeting dated March 22nd, 2003. (5B), Chatham-Kent call to the province to end homelessness in Ontario. 5C, Chatham-Kent, reducing municipal insurance costs. 5D, Essex support the Niagara Region motion respecting declarations of emergency of homelessness, mental health, and opiate addiction. And 5E, Essex tax classification of short-term rental units. 5F, Ministry of Agriculture, amended NASM plan, 2561 Oilfield Drive, Newberry, regarding the biosolids. And 5G, Administration Planter Box Program Report. Yes, Councillor Schuldeis.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I just had a question. If reading the report correctly, it says 9 were approved by council, but 18 were purchased. Is that accurate?
It is accurate. The original 9 were purchased. It just happens to be coincidentally the same number as the second time it came back around.
Okay, I thought that's what it was. Yeah. And I went for a bit of a walk last night and I noticed the 2 that are on the have cracks down through them now from the top to the bottom. I'm not sure whether that's from keeping the dirt in winter and having to freeze or if it's from moving them. But I wondered if we could look into a warranty on
The vendor is somebody that I'm familiar with over the years, certainly not through here, but through over the years, I'm sure they would honor that warranty.
it. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Councillor Schuldeis. 5H, Finance Arena Renovation Update. Yes, Councillor Vink, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Al. I don't want to belabor the point, but I just want to mention the original estimate was a lot lower than the estimate given here.
Yep, and we have gone through the explanation of that, as many municipalities have been faced with the inflationary aspects of those large capital expenditures in terms of facilities. Mike, any expression on that?
Yeah, the outlined report, I wasn't sure what the original estimate was on the job. I certainly was not here. That doesn't make it exempt from me, but I think the report speaks for itself as to where we stand with the whatever dollar was approved by this council to keep going despite the estimate.
Okay. But your words are well taken, Councillor Vink. Councillor Schuldeis,
Thank
Deputy
you,
Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Just for those that weren't on council last term and for watching the meeting. On December 15th, 2021, Cornerstone Architectural was hired as the project engineers at a then 9% commission of the entire project for a cost of $243,000, which was based on the overall budgeted price of $2.8 million. I asked at that meeting if the price keeps us on budget and was informed that it meant we were just under budget at that time. Then on March 23, 3 months later, council was presented with the new price of $5.7 million, which was approved by the former council with only Councillor Fink and myself voting against it. The entire project is over budget, but regardless of how everyone voted, we are in the same boat, just trying to make the best of a bad situation. Thank you.
Yeah. And just to add to that, Deputy Mayor, that there does come a time on a development like that where it's very hard to put it in reverse. You've got significant costs in engineering. We have a significant contribution from the province of Ontario and the federal government. And there does come a time when it is extremely difficult to look in the rearview mirror. And other municipalities are in the same situation as we. If you look around at some of the facilities that are going up in terms of recreational facilities, our project is not unlike many of theirs. Out of courtesy to you, Mike Henry, any further comment on that?
No, nothing from my standpoint. I do have a meeting with 3 of the participants in the project, including Cornerstone Architecture, either tomorrow or Friday morning. We're still having our time. And some discoveries as made with some of the allocations to the project, I think will bring us back down under the valued amount and deplete the $17,000 overage that we're facing right now. I'm going by the numbers that I have when the project was approved and finalized. So that's where we are from the report standpoint, is a 0.03% over budget on it right now. But I think we can get that down under by Friday afternoon.
Okay, thank you. And I've asked the CAO that we have the opportunity to have a presentation regarding the arena and an update from Cornerstone at a future meeting. Yes, sorry, Councillor McGill, I missed your hand there. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. The report doesn't mention how much the grant was. To the Mayor, Kristen, it was 1.9 some odd million.
Yes, 1.984.
So, yeah, so that comes off the amounts shown here. But also, I think there's an extra cost. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this report doesn't include the amount that we have to pay Cornerstone. That's on top.
That's correct.
And I believe it's 7% because when the bids came in so much over what was anticipated, they dropped their percentage that they're paid from 9% to 7%, I believe.
That is correct. Yeah.
So anyways, it's like the mayor said, kind of hard to put things in reverse,
It is.
especially when if we had said no, we would have been saying no to getting the almost $2 million grant.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's not correct. That point of order, that's not correct. We still had the grant money, whether we went for the increased costs or not. It was for the flooring and refrigeration and chair accessible washrooms. My grant money was coming anyways. We increased the scope of the work.
Well, I'd have to look into that more. That wasn't my understanding of it.
In order to obtain that grant, we had to resubmit the details a couple of times. And as you know, they're the history of the Agricultural Society pulling out and necessitated sending that grant application back again. And Kristen, could you shed any light on that?
Sorry, yes, that did contribute to the timeline delay somewhat in having to re-scope the project. I think council will remember when we first came up with the budgeted cost. Initially, that was very preliminary costing with a limited scope. So the revised pricing came after the engineers were on board and came and took a look at the project and reevaluated what needed to be done.
That's correct. That's my recollection of it. Okay. Drainage project updates. I want to thank Andrew for that. A very extensive report. He's been a very busy guy.
I would,
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor McGill.
yeah, Andrew's not going to be at the meeting tonight. Is that correct?
That's correct. Through your worship, Andrew isn't here tonight. He'll be at the second meeting of the month where he'll have 4 drainage matters coming to that meeting. And I think he's already working on 2 for May as well.
Because he's got to.
Yep, go ahead, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I just see that there's a lot of drains that are done, which is great. But there's a whole lot more that are, I think the main comment seems to be, or for status is waiting for a report, which I guess means waiting for the engineer's report.
Mhm.
So maybe when Andrew's here, he can update us on when he's expecting those reports to come.
Yep.
Okay, through your worship, to Councilor McGill, what we can do is move this drainage project updates to that other agenda so he can discuss them and give you a at-length update as to where everything is at.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. Okay, so we will 5I will reappear at our next meeting. Council, that completes the communications that have come in on the consent agenda. We have discussed several of them as the chair has sent that invitation out. I'll entertain a motion to accept it as presented. Is there a mover for the consent agenda? Okay, Councilor McCollum, a seconder for that. Councilor Haggett, discussion. Yep, all in favor? Carried. Committee of Adjustment. I do not believe there is any. No public meetings tonight. Staff reports. 8A, procedural change regarding the meeting schedule. Mike, I'll let you introduce this subject to council. The subject is to discuss the merits of having a 1 p.m. meeting and a 5 p.m. meeting. And I will let Mike introduce the recommendation to you and the strategy behind it.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Council, good evening formally. It's pretty self-explanatory what we're recommending here. The staff retention policy, which is still being worked on extensively, and the reason for that, and I'll give everybody a quick brief overview and update, is in order to have a staff retention policy, you actually need to know what your staff want and what they need and what they want to have out of working in Southwest Middlesex, and we're still trying to determine that. We've narrowed down quite immensely what it would look like. This is in conjunction with the procedural bylaw that we have, and albeit that needs a little bit of review. There's a lot of things that need to change with that as a whole. But since this council had asked for a staff retention policy or report in that regard, I'm giving you a little piece to look at. The manager of finance treasurer is going to talk about the pay equity program and what value it has as well as our legalities in that regard. So there's a couple of policies, or sorry, a couple of reports that are come forth on this. So the recommendation is pretty self-explanatory. The times are not carved in stone. Staff are generally not wishy-washy when they make recommendation. And we have said what we think is best based on the outline of the report. If council sees different, you're more than welcome to discuss and ask any questions, and I'm certainly here to help.
Thank you very much. So I just remind council that retention is an important part of an employment environment today. And also, Mike didn't mention that there is a benefit financially for this in saving approximately, I think, $13,000 per year in this endeavor. But we'll certainly open it up to the floor for questions. Martin, Councillor Dink, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Yeah, I just want to point out that I believe in compromise. And at one time, we used to have some afternoon meetings, and they started at 1:30. I think that's a better time because someone could take a half a day off work. It's pretty hard to get there by 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So 1:30, our meetings aren't that long anyway. And I don't like the 5 o'clock meeting, because after all, we're here for the public. And same thing, somebody could be working till 5 o'clock and can't get here by 5. I think the second meeting should stay at 7 o'clock.
Okay. All right, those are noted. Any further discussion? Just perhaps I could just mention to that, Councillor Vink, the county entertained a lot of public delegations, and they do a significant amount of business with an extremely significant budget. And those meetings start at 1 o'clock, and they seem to fit the mold quite well for the volume of business that they do. And furthermore, that we are blessed with the ability of having the technology to have people join these meetings, as Alan is tonight, from any location. So that's something that might be considered as well. Yes, go ahead.
In consideration of Councillor Vink's comments, the half an hour time is negligible. It's
Yep,
not.
I agree.
So I
Yep.
was just letting you know that it
Yeah,
wasn't.
no, I think that's a good point, and I support Councillor wholeheartedly. Yeah. Any further comment? Councillor Deputy Mayor, you had your hand up.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Just to note one other very important change from 2019. We went from having 3 meetings a month to 2 meetings. Up until that point, the municipality always ran on 3 meetings per month. And I'm okay with the times as well. But I'm just wondering if this could be brought up for review after the next election, just in case there's anybody that wants to run for council, that we're not holding them back due to this constraint.
May, Your Worship, that's an excellent question. Usually, and as mentioned when I opened up the dialogue here, this is usually brought with a procedural bylaw. So this is just one to kind of get out of the way before we bring that back to you in full. So Deputy Mayor Schultes is absolutely correct that this would be brought back to the next council for consideration once they get started as well.
So you would endorse a 1:30 start
I think
Yeah.
it might be better.
and the 5? I think in the
Yeah.
5, yeah, okay. I think that, and I think Martin's, suggestion there, if someone takes a lunch at 12 o'clock, it's a lot easier to make a 1:30 meeting, yeah. And, Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For me personally, a 1 or 1:30 meeting, I'm comfortable with. Similar to what Deputy Mayor Schulze said, I wouldn't want to put a future council members in a position they won't run. So knowing that it could come back in the future is fantastic. I do believe a 5 p.m. start is a bit early if we want more members of the public to view and to be able to come in. I would be interested in changing that to 6 p.m.
Okay. I think I could live with that.
I'm
Yeah.
good with that.
Yeah, yeah. We'll just let that sink in, and Councillor McGill, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm a little concerned about changing this. And, I'm not sure on the talk about, are we talking about, it could be changed after the next election? Is that the thinking?
The next council would review the
Because
procedural
people
bylaw.
would want to know before they put their name in to run, what the meeting times might be. If these meeting times, for example, did hear something in the past, somebody say, well, when they used to have meetings in the afternoon, they said, well, I can't run for council because, I work every day. You can't get time off work. And so I can't run for council. So I think it's only 2 meetings a month. I think evening meetings would be better.
Yeah. There is several areas of interest in this, and you're not incorrect in your analogy there that it would be an encumbrance upon some who throw their hat in the ring in municipal politics. But we're looking at many things. We're looking at cost savings. We're looking at employee retention. We are looking at the availability of technology that can be used. And your words are not incorrect, but it is not the character of the whole subject. There's several components to this. And Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Thank you. Since this is a big part of employee retention, I was wondering, could we defer this until after we receive that report?
I'll pass that over to my CAO, but I had a significant discussion with him about this today. And I believe that he certainly has had dialogue with staff. Whether it has not been reported to council formally, but I will hand the conversation over to Mike now, but he has had significant dialogue with staff.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. That is accurate. I have talked to staff at length about this matter. This one's sort of a separate matter from the rest of the employee retention matters that will come forth. There's the length of the work week. There's benefit portion. There is flex time. All of the things relate to kind of more of the work day and the benefit of working in Southwest. This one's sort of separate because it relates more to the procedural bylaw. So it's not really something, if you defer, it's going to come back the same way, regardless of those other things that are coming forth on the employee retention policy. This is sort of part and parcel with the procedural one. And when I say procedural, there's some other things in there, like some involvement with the hiring practices and a bunch of other things that I'd like to modify for this council. That's
Okay, and that will be forthcoming. A good question, Councillor Choi. Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Would any councillor be prepared to amend the recommendation? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I will go along with what Councillor Choi said, 1:30 and 6 o'clock.
Okay, and that's a motion. Thank you, Councillor Vink. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Haggett, any discussion, council? Yes, go ahead, Councillor McGill.
Yeah, I'd like to ask for a recorded vote.
Sure. Yep. Our pleasure.
I got this, Alan, don't worry.
Mike's gonna try to muff through on this, Alan. Okay,
Going through in no particular order, Alan, so
we
we'll go
can do
to
the horseshoe if you want.
Counselor Myers. 130 and 6, yes.
Yeah.
Counselor Agatha. Yes. Okay. Counselor Vink.
Yes.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Schuldice.
Yes.
Counselor Choi.
No.
Counselor McGill.
No,
Counselor McCollum. And Mr. Mayor, you don't need to vote because there's a but you for recorded purposes.
Yep, yes.
Okay.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, council. There was healthy dialogue on that, and council determined the decision, but all those comments that were made by every councillor are appreciated and well respected. Okay, next item is the committee terms of reference. Mike may have to go to bat for Alan here. And Mike, if you would like to lead this off, this is two committees.
Our clerk's going to give it a go.
Okay, no problem. And just before Alan begins, I would like to inform council that we are mandated by the Municipal Act to have terms of references for committees. Okay, this is something that is part of the housekeeping that we are mandated to do by a higher level of government. And I know at times these things can look stuffy and a lot of vocabulary, but as part of our responsibility to the province of Ontario and the public spending their money, we are mandated to do this. And Alan, I wish you luck on this one.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you can see with this report, I tried to balance the needs of the municipality, specifically in the numbers of community members on each committee. I'm recommending to council that we go with 5 with the Economic Development Committee and 3 with the Recreation Committee. There's a very specific reason why I'm asking to keep the Recreation Committee at 3. It needs to be nimble and able to react in quick instances. And a small group is much easier to get together. And the reason why we want it to be nimble is that I want to, with council's permission, bring back the candidates as a subcommittee of that group. And with the Recreation Committee being the reporting body for that. That is basically the major changes that I've made.
Okay. Council, it is a lot to digest and it is important. And I'm sure that Alan or Mike Henry will answer any questions, and the chair will certainly try to assist as well. Are there any questions in regard to this? If I could lead off, Alan, with one, and I know the chair doesn't like to bring a controversy to such recommendation, but I'm concerned about the Recreation Committee going somewhere beyond athleticism. And an example would be the New Horizon. I feel that they play an important part of our community. They represent a large demographic. And I would very much like to see one of our senior citizens in our community that represent that demographic and represent that valued resource we have and New Horizon into this. We have reintroduced the welcome mat to New Horizon. And are there any thoughts on that, or council got any suggestions that we could do? But if they are not part of this committee at present, I would like to see that representation added to it. Any comment from any of staff?
He's Our clerk is nodding, so it's council's pleasure what they'd like to do with it. He's making recommendation, but you guys, in essence, do whatever you like in this regard. Somewhat,
Schultz.
sort of.
If there is somebody from the New Horizon Club to join, I would certainly opportunity
You
as
bet.
well.
Okay.
And I'd also just need to follow up if I could, just to point out that these are advisory committees only. And all information should first be presented to council, which has not always been the case in the past. Municipal business needs to come before council first. And all committees can only make recommendations to council, with council having the final say on all decisions.
I think that's carved in stone. Alan, you have a chance to catch your breath there, and if you want to enter the dialogue, but make sure you're feeling okay. Don't push yourself too hard there.
Okay. Yes, they are reporting. With this candidate committee, though, they are actually quite operational, which is why I was trying to put them as a subcommittee. The recreation committee is just going to be a flow through body for reports. They're not really going to be engaged in any single way with that subcommittee. And I do have mechanisms for the subcommittee to report directly to council if they need to, inject it into their policies and procedures. A lot of this is to make it so that we can, I'm trying to find a right word for this, ask people to join the committee instead of doing a traditional application process.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. And it is it's pretty tight the way it's written. So I would not have any concerns that council will be left in the dark on some of these recommendations as they may have been in the past. But it's tightened up quite a bit. And I want to thank Councillor Schultz for his support on that recommendation to involve the New Horizon on that. I appreciate the backing on that, Mike, and I hope and trust the council will see that as well as an important part of our recreation process. Yes, Councillor Vink.
Yes, as a senior citizen, I can appreciate what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah. You want to represent him, Martin? I think we've got a couple. We got Howie sitting at the back there, and I think Howie and I have chatted about this in the past, and I'm sure that they will find a suitable member to join that committee. So the recommendation is before you, and can I construe from the conversation that the New Horizon Club be added to the Recreation Committee as a representative for the senior element in our community? Is that understood? Okay. Would someone move the recommendation with that change? Okay, Councillor Myers, seconder for that. Councillor Haggett. Any questions, Council? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, Alan, thank you very much. If you're still within hearing distance there, I appreciate it. You look after yourself. You sound like you're under the weather.
Tough enough.
Yeah, tough enough. You have to be tough, and you have to be tough in this business, Council. Well, we have our treasurer that will be speaking to us regarding the market and pay equity review. Kristen, could you take council by the hand on this and walk us through it?
We sure can. For those of you that have been on council for a while, we do this every 5 years or so. So this is just to have council direct staff to go out to market or to start the process to undertake the pay equity and compensation review. Typically, municipalities do compensation review in order to stay competitive every 5 years. So that involves gaining information about what pay is in surrounding municipalities. And pay equity is legislated. So that's
Okay. And following the report that comes back to council, is it our objective to be in the median position on this? Is that the philosophy that's been demonstrated in the past?
Yes, typically we aim for about the 50th percentile.
Okay, and I see our CAO and our treasurer both agreeing to that. Any discussion, council, or any questions you'd like to ask Kristen through the chair? Yes, Deputy Mayor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure who to direct this to. And I don't want to hire somebody to gather this information. But is it not somewhat of a conflict of interest having staff present a report on something that could affect their own salaries?
I'll get that one. Thank you. No, this will be presented by a separate third party that does the industry as a whole at a quite reasonable.
Yes, thank you.
100%. Good question.
Okay. And of course, it will be council's determination what they do with that report. Okay, we will have the set the outcome of that. And as Kristen said, we are legislating through this. Any further questions? Seeing none, would someone move the recommendation as documented in the agenda? Councillor Choi. Councillor Haggett, thank you. Last call for questions to Kristen. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Kristen, very much. And those tenders will come back, those inquiries will come back to council. Fire, there is nothing this evening. Planning. We have a zoning bylaw amendment, 3875 Parkhouse Drive. And I don't believe Stephanie is here this evening for this, but she's on holidays. But Mike, could you inform council of the purpose of this item on the agenda?
The purpose is pretty clear. I won't be as smiley and friendly as our friendly planner, but I'll do my best here. This is a very simple one that she felt comfortable with me handling in her absence and vacation. So we're just looking for removal of the H3 symbol, that it's aligned with the OPPL property. It's very simple. It's a color of land that just needs to have the H lifted so they can continue with their permit that they have applied for and are ready to go with their phase one of their very, very extensive project. So if you have any questions, I'll do my best.
Yep, go ahead, council. Anyway, we're pleased to see that development. And I had the pleasure of speaking to one of the principals today in my office and the engineer, and good conversation. Any concerns that I had were well addressed. Okay. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. The drainage item on the Butler drain has been pulled, and it'll be on the next agenda. Number 2 in operations is Public Works dust control tender. But before I do so, council and the listening public, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Morrow Council. We are delighted to have this gentleman with us. He is comes very well recommended. I've had conversations with him that I've thoroughly enjoyed over the last week. He comes with us with a great amount of experience in his industry, and he has hit the ground running in the last week. He has lots on his plate, and we certainly welcome you to council. Morrow, we look forward to your participation and your professionalism that you've demonstrated to date, and we look forward to your report on dust control.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you here. Today, before you is a report for the dust control. It's the tender results. Just to let you know, the tender results were in compliance with the municipal procurement and goods and service policy, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have regarding the report.
Okay, council, are there any questions? I see Denbar Brines were the successful applicant, and they have been historically very much the individual who puts the lowest tender in. Yes, Martin, Councillor Vink, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Is this about the same price as last year or more?
Through you, your worship, it's very close. When I compared the results to last year's report, it was within a few cents a liter.
Okay, and we are within budget on this as well, are we not?
That's correct. Mayor.
Okay, that's great. Okay, any further questions? The recommendation is before you, that dust control tender report be received for information, and that Denmark Brines Limited be awarded the tender at the price of 0.05 cents a liter. Someone move that motion. Councillor Vink, seconder for that. Councillor Haggett. Last call for questions. Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Maureen. We'll go on to next item here, the supply of granular material. This is always a report that's received with interest, so please go ahead.
Through you, your worship, before you report of the tender results for the supply of granular material. Again, tender results were within the municipal procurement of goods service policy, and it is within budget.
It is.
And I'm going to answer any questions that you may have.
Just, I might emulate Councillor Vink's last question. How's our price comparison? Has there been an inflationary aspect to this?
Again, yes, I did. When I did compare to the results of last year, we were about $1 to above what was last year's price
Okay. Okay.
per ton.
All right, per ton. Yeah. Okay. Council, any further questions? The chair will call then if there's no more questions. Will someone move the recommendation as presented? Lost my voice, guys. Yep. I think I caught it from Alan. Moved by Councillor Myers. Yeah, and Don, can you second that? Thanks a lot. All in favor? Carried. Laurel, thank you very much. I got my voice back. I think it was that price of gravel that I lost my voice. Council, are there any notices of motion? Thank you very much. Correspondence and petitions. We have Wilson's Mini Mart before us. We do this on an annual basis. Council, for those who sell liquor, they need permission from council to sell it on a statutory holiday. And Wilson's Mini Mart in Melbourne, of course, sell liqueurs and alcohol products. Alan, I'm not sure if Alan wanted to speak to this or Mike, did you want to speak to this?
I'll speak to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, we do this every single year. I did an investigation with the LCBO and found that we don't actually have to do it annually. And the LCBO actually doesn't even have any regulations regarding this. This is just a recommended in their manual. So I'm suggesting to council that we move forward indefinitely with an approval. And then if circumstances changes, we can step in.
Okay, thank you very much, Alan. I think that is provides some efficiency to our operations. My only addition to that would be to will the proprietor of Wilton's Mini Mart be notified of that this will be for perpetuity unless otherwise notified?
If council entertains the motion, I absolutely will contact them.
Okay, that'll be great because I think it's important and we're glad to have them as part of our community. Any questions? Yes, go ahead, Don.
Yes, I'm just wondering if they didn't miss the Good Friday holiday. They were closed for 3 days or something. They say they couldn't get a permit.
Well, it didn't come to council, but we don't want that to happen in the past. And I think with what the clerk has recommended, it'll avoid that from happening again, because,
Just not mentioned. there.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh, the
Yeah.
Friday,
yeah.
Saturday.
So this one, yeah, and if Alan could clarify, this is for all statutory holidays or just the Canada Day one?
Through you, your worship, this is specifically for, Victoria Day, Canada Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving and Family Day. As the other, holidays you can't get a license for to operate through the facility like
Okay.
that.
Okay, so that would be exempt from religious holidays. Okay, thank you, Alan, for your work on that. Council, any further questions? And again, our clerk has tried to obtain some efficiencies and conveniences for the ratepayer. No questions, I'll call the motion, the recommendation, all in favor? Carried. Thank you again, Alan. Unfinished business. Mike Henry, I don't believe there's any. And new business, nothing was removed from the consent agenda, so we're okay. County Council and conference updates. Are there any? Seeing none. Announcements. Any announcements in your wards? Seeing none. I have not been advised of any closed sessions. Council brings us to 16 on the agenda, the bylaws. I'll read these out. If there's any concerns, please raise your hand and we can discuss them. The clerk is present and he may help us. These will bring back memories of our governance on some of these we've just immediately done. The recommendation is that bylaw 2023-19, 2023-22, 2023-23, and 2023-24 be adopted as read. First bylaw being a bylaw to remove the holding symbol 3 from 3875 Park House. 16B being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of budgetary estimates for the year 2023. And being a bylaw to set the tax rate and to further provide for penalty and interest in defaults of payments thereof in 2023. And the last one is being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Municipality of Southwest Middlesex. Out of courtesy, Council, I'll ask you if there's any questions on those. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Vink. They do. And our tax rate increase is about 2.85 or thereabouts. Oh, that's even better. That's very good. Okay, that sounds good. And the penalty, is that so much above prime, or how do you set that penalty, Kristen?
It's 15% annually. It's prescribed by the municipal act.
Okay, thank you. It's again legislated by a higher level of government. Okay, all in favor of the bylaws as presented? Carried. Future meetings, I don't see any dates here, but our staff will inform council. Up to date, yes, Alan, go ahead.
I'm sorry, your worship, who was the first and seconder for those bylaws? I missed that.
I believe it was Amy and who put up their hands? Yep, there was, I know. Oh, did we not? Didn't I come? Okay, we'll go through it for us again. All in favor of the bylaws as presented? Okay. Schuldice, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Myers. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Questions? All in favor? Carried. There, I got my voice back and the meeting's over. Okay, thank you very much, Council. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for that water.
On